Somewhere right now, there's a lab quietly taking apart a famous, expensive perfume, molecule by molecule, completely legally, and there's genuinely nothing the original brand can do to stop it. That sounds like it should be illegal. It sounds exactly like the kind of thing that should end in a massive headline-making lawsuit. But it doesn't. And today I want to show you exactly why. I'm going to walk you through the single most copied perfume formula in the history of the fragrance industry, and then I'm going to explain the actual legal loophole, the real one, backed by real law and real court decisions, that makes this entire multi-million-dollar copying industry completely untouchable. By the end of this video, you're going to understand something most people never think about: why your favorite luxury perfume can be copied down to the exact molecule, sold for a fraction of the price, marketed openly online, and the original brand, no matter how big or how powerful, genuinely cannot do a single thing to stop it. The two biggest contenders. Before we get into the legal side of this, let's talk about who's actually being copied the most, because there isn't just one single answer. There are two real genuine contenders for the title of most copied perfume in history. And honestly, both of them deserve the crown for slightly different reasons. The first one is creedAventus. This perfume has been described by people deep inside the fragrance industry as perhaps the most replicated fragrance in history, with dozens and dozens of different clone houses all releasing their own version of it over the years, each one trying to get a little closer than the last. The second one is a more modern pick, but arguably even more dominant right now, in this exact moment. Baccarat Rouge 540, made by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Industry insiders have literally started calling this one the modern king of fragrance dupes. If you search perfume dupe anywhere online right now, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Google, this is usually the very first name that comes up. Let's actually dig into both of these one at a time, because the story behind each one is genuinely a little different, and together they paint a much fuller picture of how this whole copying industry actually works. Contender 1, creedAventus. creedAventus first came out back in 2010, and it built its entire reputation around smelling expensive, confident, and just a little bit rare. Pineapple, birch, smoky woods, all layered together into something that feels bold without being obnoxious. It became a genuine status symbol over the years, the kind of perfume people specifically wear because they want to be noticed, not just to smell nice in a quiet, forgettable way. And precisely because it became so wildly popular, it also turned into a magnet for copycats. Over the years, dozens of different clone and dupe houses have released their own version of Aventus, some getting shockingly close to the real thing, close enough to fool experienced noses in a blind test, while others miss the mark entirely and end up smelling more like a rough sketch than an actual copy. Some fragrance forums have entire ongoing threads dedicated purely to ranking which Aventus clone is the closest match this particular year, because new attempts keep showing up constantly, almost like a yearly competition nobody officially organized. Here's the thing that makes this story genuinely wild once you sit with it, though. Creed has spent years, and clearly a huge amount of money, carefully building the exact reputation that ended up making it such a massive target in the first place. The rarity, the price tag, the feeling that you're wearing something exclusive that not everyone else has access to. But none of that image, none of that careful branding effort actually protects the formula itself in any legal sense. And that gap between how protected a brand feels and how protected it actually is exactly the problem we're about to get into. Contender 2, Baccarat Rouge 540. Now let's talk about the perfume that's arguably even more copied right now. In this present moment, more than any other single fragrance on the market, Baccarat Rouge 540. This one is warm, sweet, a little smoky, built around saffron, jasmine, and amberwood, and it smells genuinely unlike anything else out there, which is actually part of why it became such a huge target for copying in the first place. When something smells unique and instantly recognizable, and it becomes wildly popular at the exact same time, it turns into the perfect candidate for dupes, because there's already a massive built-in audience actively searching online for a cheaper version, often before the dupe even exists yet. Here's a detail that makes this story even more interesting than most. The actual creator of this perfume, Francis Kurkdjian, is not some random outsider commenting on the dupe industry from a safe distance. He's one of the most respected master perfumers alive today. He currently leads perfume creation at Christian Dior, one of the biggest fashion houses in the world, and Baccarat Rouge 540 is literally his own signature creation, released under his own personal name. and he's actually spoken publicly about this exact issue, on the record, more than once. He said plainly that a formula of a scent cannot be patented, even though a great perfume is genuinely the result of years of study, training, and real creative vision, just like any other act of creation. Think about that for a second. The person who arguably has the most to lose financially from copying, the actual perfumer whose name is on the bottle, is openly admitting that there's basically nothing stopping it from happening. That's not a rumor. That's not a theory some blogger came up with. That's coming directly from the man who made the thing. Why this is actually legal. Okay, so here's the part of this video that I think is genuinely the most useful thing you'll learn today. Why is any of this actually legal in the first place, when it feels like it really shouldn't be? The short answer is this: you cannot patent a perfume formula, and you cannot copyright a scent either. Not because nobody has ever tried, but because of how patent and copyright law are actually built from the ground up. A patent protects a genuinely new invention, a new process, a new physical mechanism that does something specific and functional. A copyright protects something that can be fixed in a tangible, recordable form, something you can technically publish, like a book, a song, a photograph, or a film. A scent doesn't fit cleanly into either of these categories. It's not a physical mechanism doing a specific job, and it's not something you can publish in the traditional legal sense of the word. So right from the very beginning, perfume formulas fall into a strange legal gap that almost no other creative or commercial product falls into quite this cleanly. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what about trademarks specifically? Surely a company can trademark their own famous iconic scent, right? This is where it gets even more interesting, and honestly a little unfair feeling once you hear the real story. Chanel, one of the most famous, most powerful fashion houses on the entire planet, actually tried to trademark the smell of their own iconic Chanel No. 5, and they were denied. Not by some minor court either, but through a formal legal process specifically designed to evaluate unconventional trademarks like smells, colors, and sounds. The legal reasoning came down to a specific standard, sometimes called the Siegman test, named after the court case that established it. This test requires that a trademark be clear, precise, and objective enough that anyone looking at the legal description could understand and consistently recognize exactly what's being protected. A scent, because every single person perceives smells slightly differently based on their own nose and their own brain, and because there's no simple, universal, agreed-upon way to graphically represent a smell the way you easily can with a logo, a color code, or a written word, almost never manages to clear that legal bar. If Chanel No. 5, arguably the single most famous perfume in the entire world, a scent that practically everyone on Earth could recognize, couldn't clear that hurdle, you can start to imagine just how difficult, maybe even impossible, it would be for literally any other perfume house to succeed where Chanel failed. So here's what trademark law actually does protect in the perfume world, to be completely clear about it. It protects the brand name printed on the box. It protects the logo. It protects the specific packaging and bottle design, something lawyers actually call trade dress. What it does not protect at all, in any meaningful legal sense, is the actual scent itself, the literal chemical formula, the thing that's genuinely inside the bottle doing all the work. That one specific gap between what the law protects and what actually makes a perfume special is the entire reason the dupe industry exists so openly and operates completely out in the daylight, without needing to hide from anyone. How dupe makers actually do it. This isn't just guesswork, and it isn't people sniffing a bottle over and over, trying their best to remember what it smelled like from memory. Modern dupe makers use real, genuine scientific technology to reverse engineer a fragrance with a surprising amount of precision. The most common method involves something called gas chromatography mass spectrometry, which is honestly a mouthful, but the concept behind it is actually pretty simple once you break it down. In simple terms, this is lab equipment that can take a liquid, break it apart, and identify the specific individual molecules inside it in incredibly precise detail, almost like getting a full ingredient list back from something that never had one printed anywhere. A dupe company can literally run a small sample of a famous, expensive perfume through this machine and get back a detailed molecular breakdown of what's actually inside that bottle, piece by piece. Now, that doesn't automatically mean they walk away with a perfect identical copy every single time. They might still choose to use cheaper raw ingredients to keep costs down, or get some of the subtle proportions slightly wrong, or simply lack the exact aging and blending process that the original house has spent years perfecting behind closed doors. But it gives them an extremely accurate starting point to work from, A completely different level of accuracy compared to simply guessing based on smell alone, the way copycats might have decades ago. This is a big part of why some modern dupes have gotten shockingly close to the real thing, close enough that even experienced, trained fragrance reviewers sometimes genuinely struggle to tell them apart in a proper blind test. What this actually means for you. So why does any of this actually matter if you're just someone who wants to smell good without spending $300 on a bottle? Honestly, it means the dupe market you've probably already seen all over TikTok and YouTube isn't some shady underground operation. It's a completely legal industry, built directly on top of a genuine, permanent gap in intellectual property law. That's exactly why brands like Dossier can openly market a scent as inspired by Le Labo's Santal 33, using completely different branding and packaging, and face no real legal consequences for it. It also explains something a little more personal. If you've ever wondered why an expensive, beloved perfume you love gets copied within months of blowing up, it's not because nobody's trying to stop it. It's because legally there's genuinely very little that can be done, short of the brand constantly innovating, protecting its formula as a trade secret, and hoping loyal customers value the full original experience enough to keep paying full price anyway. So there you go. The reason your favorite perfume keeps getting copied isn't bad luck, and it isn't because nobody's trying to stop it. It's because the law itself was never really built to protect a smell in the first place. Did any of this genuinely surprise you? Let me know in the comments, especially if you've tried a dupe of either creedAventus or Baccarat Rouge 540 yourself. If this helped you understand something you didn't know before, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next video.